The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Rise and shine, my sinners. When Father Evil starts his day, he gets a little deadly. Deadly Grounds coffee has the richest, smoothest flavor you'll find anywhere. It's sinfully delicious. Once you go deadly, you never go back. Order yours at getdeadly.com. Coffee's so good, it's scary.
Hey, you dorks, this is Gunnar Hansen, Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you are listening to The Dorkening.
Hi, I'm Brian Johnson, and although you probably accidentally stumbled across it and have no idea why you're watching it, you are in fact watching The Dorkening.
Hello, this is Tom Kenny, voice actor, the voice of the Ice King on Adventure Time, and SpongeBob SquarePants. Meow. Oh, Gary the Snail, too. Hey, guess what you're filling your eye holes and ear holes with? The Dorkening! Oh, I love the Dorkening. Very popular in Ooh. And Bikini Bottom.
Hi, I'm Lou Ferrigno. You're watching The Dorkening. And you know what? You don't like me when I get angry, so don't get me angry. You better keep watching The Dorkening.
Hey guys, this is Felissa Rose, and you're watching The Dorkening.
Hey guys, it's Courtney Palm. We're shooting Death House, and you're watching The Dorkening.
This is Anthony Michael Hall, and you're watching The Dorkening. Stay tuned, my friend's going to show you what entertainment's all about, baby.
The Dorkening.
The Dorkening.
And Ganja Gospel.
And Ganja Gospel.
Welcomes you to an enlightening Sunday.
The red pill. Where we only dish out red pills on the offering tray with a big fat hookie. Yeah, big fat. It's a church torch. Hookie? It's a church torch and a red pill. So fill in, jump in your seats, and stay tuned for more of the Book of the Giants.
King
the
Giants
presents
the Book of Og,
World
Enoch
Domination.
and the Giants. It's an all-in-one, guys, an all-in-one. So we're gonna hit the books today, like we do on Sundays. Can you hand me the toilet paper first, please?
Welcome to church.
Fine.
Welcome to the Ganja Gospel.
Welcome.
This is a Weed Church production. A twisted treat. No trick. No tricks here. Only truth and discovery of what once was. And yes, Budsville, there were giants. You know there were. You're a descendant of the fallen. You know that. You are of the people of the rocket ships. I bet you. Watch, you're going to find out in this. Who giants begot giants in the beginning.
Okay, well, let's just get into it. Last week, or actually we skipped last week, let's be honest. But the week before, we went ahead and did a little intro to what was going on. It's a little piecemealed together here. So this particular book has a lot of fillers, let's put it, so that everything is understandable. But let's fucking get into it. So the introduction, it's only a page long. I'm going to read that real quick before we start in chapter 1. The editor's note.
Mother Nature's in hand.
Well, Mother Nature, oh my goodness, it is great to see you. How you doing? Haven't seen you in forever. Lovely. So the editor's note. What you hold in your hands, my hands.
What's in your other hand?
This hand as well. What you hold in your hands is a prize of antiquity. This is the very first pressing of King Og of Bashan's writings. King Og is the fierce giant that Moses has to fight, mentioned in Numbers 21 of the Bible.
So King Og is one of the fierce giants that Moses had to fight. Okay. So Moses, after the flood, freeing the Jews, walking across the Red Sea, you know, he goes into the land, the promised land. You know, they're lost for 40 years walking around this motherfucker. They ain't lost. They are going around and slaughtering every motherfucking giant nation that they come across. Women, children, and men, all their animals, they slaughter them all in order to be able to make that area safe. They even said that we were grasshoppers to them. Like, can you imagine that? You can hold grasshopper in your hand. Imagine holding a little person. You got to fight that dude and kill him. Oh, my God.
So this book features the only Aramaic translation of the remaining, mostly complete copy of the Book of King Og, the Rephaim.
It starts like this.
This text, which was lost or hidden because of the historic calculated move by Pope Pius VII to separate it from the Manichaean Book of the Giants. So this was purposely separated and hidden. This has been the source of great speculation within the research halls of the Vatican for centuries. Originally, both Latin and Aramaic versions existed. The Latin version was censored and destroyed by the Catholic Church in the 5th century CE. What does that tell you? What does that tell you?
Yeah, so in the 5th century...
People be destroying truth all throughout history.
In the 5th century CE, we call it AD. For some reason, I don't know, they changed it to Christ everlasting now after death. But because they say he didn't die, he's the Holy Spirit now, so it's Christ everlasting. So this is 500 AD, and it's 500 years after so-called Christ was crucified, right? So we're at year 500, and we're at year 2022. So that's when it was all destroyed. Way the fuck back then, it was going through. Christians were terrorizing the place, telling people they couldn't be on weed, telling people they couldn't be enlightened, and cutting all their history out of them. What else you got?
The recent uncovering of the Cassiodorus donation of 550 CE has revealed the most intact, albeit horribly preserved, copy of the Book of Og yet. Cassiodorus, the Roman writer, owned an extensive library and donated books and original scrolls to the church on a regular basis. The specific Cassiodorus donation of 550 CE was uncovered in early 2015 and made available to in-house Vatican translators for supervised perusal only in August of that same year. The suppression of this text has always been due to the fact that the Book of King Og is a pagan book. The pagan aspects of the tome, and there are plenty, make its burial by the Catholic Church completely logical. In fact, I understand their argument that the decision was God-inspired. With Constantine, sorry, I couldn't fucking pronounce that for a second there. With Constantine's systematic destruction of non-Christian text in and around 326 CE and the following Galatian decree of the 5th century CE, knowledge and or reproduction of Og's verses was rendered impossible. So let's just think about it there. In that time, in those eras, how much history and truth that we have been lied to for so long and covered up, it was destroyed so that it could be rewritten, you guys.
Yeah.
It was rewritten for us.
Christians. It was made that the Christians were in charge and in control and did all this crazy ass fucking shit. You know what I'm saying? Here's the thing. A lot of people will say the Christians are white people, but lo and behold, let's go back, way back. You're going to find the truth. You can find the truth, true Christians. And this is what they were doing. They wanted to be in power, in control. They destroyed everyone's history, and they will go to different places. They call them pagan gods. Well, guess what? Those same pagan gods that you call pagan gods, Enlil, your god in the Bible, is one of them. He's one of them. He's in the pantheon. You know what I mean? So it's just funny to me.
In fact, the Catholic Church originally posted the following words for anathema in regards to the Book of King Og and other forbidden texts, quote unquote. And whatever disciples of heresy and of the heretics or schismatics, whose names we have scarcely preserved, have taught or compiled, we declare to be not merely rejected, but excluded from the whole Roman Catholic and Apostolic Church, and its authors and their adherents to be damned in the inextricable shackles of anathema forever.
What does that mean?
Huh?
What does that mean?
To be damned in the inextricable shackles of anathema forever. Anathema being that it's looked down upon. It is with contempt, with hatred, with it's not okay. It's not good. It's kind of type of thing. The book, so that's pretty poignant. The Book of King Og is referenced by association throughout relatively recent history, perhaps most notably in the new history of ecclesiastical writers. Ecclesiastical writers. Published in 1693.
So 1693, our days.
In this reference book, the Book of King Og is described as forged by Jews and heretics, both fabulous and erroneous. Furthermore, there has always been an historic element of disregard for the text, as in the court records of the blasphemy trial of C. Southwell in 1841, which was ground zero for the modern atheist movement. In those trial documents, there is a reference to the Book of King Og that has been lost and is full of fables and errors, quote unquote. What I have come to conclude is that this has been a lamentable suppression of,
Holy Jesus.
What I have,
it's like the fucking biblical flood happened.
I apologize. What I have come to conclude is that this has been a lamentable suppression of key spiritual knowledge that discloses fissures in Christian ideology by the Catholic Church. The Book of King Og in its entirety is currently under lock and key, deep in the bowels of the Vatican.
Of course it is.
What has been transcribed is housed in the secret Vatican Library at the Department of Ancient Documents and Surviving Occult Findings. This department is curated under the Vatican's residing American bishop and translator, Father Martin, currently traveling abroad. Now, this is, when this is written, of course. Father Martin has only been able to work.
He's the whistleblower. He's the leaker.
Father Martin has only been able to work exclusively on the translation in earnest since the spring of 2016. In short, Father Martin has access to a text that has been unknown and unavailable to any non-Vatican scholar in this field until now. As far as Father Martin has informed me, these are the only known writings of any of the Rephaim. I apologize for breaks in text. I will cite them in brackets. I will also transcribe that which Father Martin was unable to translate as follows. Speculative text will have no ellipses, blah, 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 kind of all that good stuff. Regarding speculative text, though, it was painstakingly agreed between Father Martin and myself, that italicized words now signify broader translations. All translation liberties taken have been cleared by Father Martin and a panel of his direct Catholic superiors. What you see below is the most efficient reading of the lost book of King Og. The final note for readers is that due to the decomposed state of source documents, both chapters 5 and 7 are incomplete. In fact, chapter 5 is more or less reduced to a gratuitous killing that King Og and his son Ogyas participated in. Chapter 7 is when King Og speaks his final words prior to battle with Moses. While chapter 7 was in pieces, the argument about whether to call the incoming attackers Israelites, quote unquote, or not became the focus of many, many arguments. Yes, they were the Israelites, but historically, at that time, they were not defined as such. In the translation of King Og's torrent of profanity, it was concluded that the written target should be acutely defined rather than left open to suggestion. This is, in fact, Moses and his people, whom Og is addressing. For brevity's sake, the word Israelite is used in this sequence.
And I showed you earlier on the last live what the true Israelite people look like. They don't look like the Jews in Israel banging their head off the fucking wall. They were warriors, African warriors, right?
This book is the result of long months of late night discussions and study stateside with Father Martin, a close personal friend of mine, Demmon. So a couple of other things here. Numbers 21:34, the King James Version. And the Lord said unto Moses, fear him not, for I have delivered him unto thy hand, and all his people and his land. And thou shalt do to him as thou didst unto Sihon, king of the Amorites, which dwelt at Heshbon. Deuteronomy 3:11, the King James Version. For only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnant of giants. Behold, his bedstead was a bedstead of iron. Is it not in Rabbath of the children of Ammon? 9 cubits was the length thereof, and 4 cubits the breadth of it, after the cubit of a man. A black man unfairly wears the biblical mark of Cain. Similarly, any male that has been circumcised bears the mark of Nimrod.
Hold on, read that again. Go back to his bed size.
Okay.
Now, do we know what a cubit length is?
9 cubits.
So a cubit, I believe they were saying it was like 3 feet or something like that. Or I can't remember. We're going to have to look it up. What is a cubit? Are you looking that up?
Yep.
You can say it.
It's a cubit in feet. 1.84 feet.
1.84 feet.
Wait, let me see. Let me double check.
It was
a
like
cubit. The cubit in the distance between the elbow and the tip of a middle finger must be.
Yeah, it was like an 18-inch thing or something like that.
A cubit equal to 18 inches.
18 inches.
18 inches.
So he was 9 cubits. So what's 9 times 18?
$162.
Divided by 12.
13 and a half.
He was 13 and a half feet tall. 13 and a half feet tall. That's how you do math, people. He was 13 and a half feet tall. That's a giant. I'm a kind of a tall dude. If a 13 and a half foot tall dude was standing in front of me, I would fucking be shitting my pants.
You'd be as tall as the house.
I would be pissing all over myself, dude. That's insane. Oh, he would just crush you. His hand would be bigger than everything you see right here on me. He'd just plow and I'd be dead. So read the part with his bed again and then pay attention what the mark of Cain means, right? And then going on forward.
Deuteronomy 3:11, the King James Version. For only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnant of giants. Behold, his bedstead was a bedstead of iron. It is not in Rabbath of the children of Is it not in Rabbath of the children of Ammon? 9 cubits was the length thereof, and 4 cubits the breadth of it, after the cubit of a man. A black man unfairly wears the biblical mark of Cain. Similarly, any male that has been circumcised bears the mark of Nimrod. Nimrod's stupidity is deeply ingrained and penetrates all races and cultures. Father Martin. You may put down your weapons, but my war still comes for your feeble mind and circumcised loins. King Og. King Og to Nimrod. Okay, now we're going into chapter 1. Lost Book of King Og, chapter 1. King Og lets his hatred of Nimrod be known. These are the last and only words spoken by Og the Rephaim as told to Onzal, the slayer of the smaller selves before Baal, Baal of the earth, who keeps our gardens fertile, Baal of the earth, who guided Og's complete-loined wrath from when the old world's monsters stood until after the time of the great waters, Baal, who will reverse the unspoken mistake. The loose-boweled false priests led mighty Og, Nimrod, and all the Rephaim to the unspoken mistake, that embarrassing which cannot be named or fixed until Baal intervenes. The stupid unspoken mistake stains us all to the inner loins. The mistake in the fields that the false, loose-boweled Rephaim, priests of Baal, led us to, perverting us all.
So what is the Rephaim? Do you know what the Rephaim is, babe?
It says
you know.
No.
Okay,
no.
so the Rephaim, so there was Enlil, right? The Anunnaki. There were the other beings that worked for the Anunnaki called the Agigi. They were Anunnaki also, but got the title of Agigi because they were the work crew, right? Now, when they came down to Earth, because they were being treated unfair in Mars, they became your biblical fallen angels. When they had sex with the primitive worker women that were all over the fucking place, they just snatched bitches up and started banging them. They begot giants called the Rephaim. Okay, these are demigods. Okay, just like Achilles and Hercules and Samson, those are all demigods too. But you call them holy gods or the good guys because they supposedly came from your God, your Anunnaki guy. You know what I'm saying? But guess what? There's other people that live on this planet that their Anunnaki guy was one of those fucking what you call fallen angels or bad guys. They were all the same shit. All Anunnaki, just had different roles in the game. So here's the story of the Rephaim, the children of the fallen angels, the giants. Giants begot giants. And they're talking with humans. That's why the book of Enoch's in here too. The mediator between them and humans was Enoch. Go ahead, baby.
I, Og, and the true Rephaim, priests of Baal, tore out the jelly of their eyes and pulled the stupid skulls off of those false Rephaim priests of complete loin. We spilled their worm-filled stomachs and yellowing wet droppings out on the fields. With bare hands, we twisted and tore them free. Nimrod also participated, sacrificing his false Nephilim priests of incomplete loin and piling their plucked circumcised sexual organs atop each other and sparked the useless meat with fire, a disgrace to them. Baal of the earth was pleased. The blackened blood of both complete and incompletely loined deceivers ran thick over the grass. We cut the bodies into pieces and laid them upon the wood and poured 4 barrels of oil upon the flesh. Then the fire of Baal of the sun fell and consumed the sacrifice of false priests. The dark smoke of cursed Rephaim flesh smoldered. Sacrifice burned for Baal of the earth and the promise of fertility. We encouraged the vermin-like smaller selves of both kingdoms, both complete and incomplete loined, present at the sacrifice to feast upon the corrupted.
Hold on, slow down.
I'm sorry.
Just a little bit. But what I want you to notice here is she keeps saying, what's that word, cut and uncut from the loin?
Yeah, it is
so
complete and incomplete.
Complete and incomplete
loin.
From the loin.
Loin.
It means their cocks, their penises were either circumcised or uncircumcised. Now, I talk a lot about cocks. I'm not gay. I'm not homophobic. I'm not homosexual. I'm very heterosexual. I'm loving my twin flame. Now, here's the thing, though. Why has it always been a thing that all dudes are all talking about their dicks? It's from times of the beginning that literally set us apart from what you know as God, what I know as the Anunnaki. They were born with uncircumcised or with circumcised penises. They never had a penis sheath. When they came to our planet, go look at a monkey, go look at an ape. What do they have? They have a big long cock, big old balls, looks just like ours, right? A little thin, but they have a big long penis sheath. That's what we had. When they created us, that's how they knew distinctly that they were different. They said, We were made in their image and their likeness. Dude, they look just like me and you. They might be a different color. They might be blue, yellow, red. Who gives a fuck? The features, the DNA match, right? What sets us different? Like a girl? Who knows? You might not tell a girl different. They only said the dude. The dude has a penis sheath, just like beasts of the field. That's what human means, beast of the field. Okay, so this is very important because even from here, they're noticing you're cut and you're uncut. And what they were doing is they were circumcising themselves. And he's talking about here, we're going to fucking all them up. We're going to kill all them people that cut their penises. And that's what they're doing, sacrificing them to Baal of the earth. What does that mean? God of the earth. What is Baal of the sun? That means God of the sun. Baal of the sun was Ra. Okay, that was Ra. Baal of the sky would be Enlil. Baal of the earth, right, would be Enki. Baal of the underworld would be whoever it was at that time, probably Nizherzak or Ishkegel. She was a chick, big old titty, sitting on the throne with a big whip and chains, baby. She was the first one. The first one. No, she was the last one after the 7 gates. Go ahead, baby.
We encourage the vermin-like smaller selves.
That's us. That's us. Vermin-like smaller selves. That was us, humans.
Of both kingdoms, both complete and incomplete loined, present at the sacrifice to feast upon the corrupted flesh of Rephaim bodies.
So there's only 2 kingdoms of humans, our size people, probably a little bit taller than us, but they weren't no 13-footers, to come to this feast and eat upon the flesh, cannibalize upon the flesh. 2 kingdoms of humans, they were invited to come eat on fallen angel children's flesh.
An unnatural curse now rests upon my skull and spirit until the end of stars. We both encourage this new abomination, Nimrod and I, Og, in our quest for the unnatural. This is really interesting how it's laid out because of all the how it's translated and stuff. So if I do go a little fast, it's because it's hard to follow sometimes.
Yes, but just read it word for word and I'll decipher. Because what this is, guys, we just heard the book of Enki, right? Lost Book of Enki. He only tells you what was happening in his day-to-day actions. I'll fast forward a little bit, skim across. Now this is on the ground, baby. This is on the ground. The motherfucking demigods they made and shit.
Yeah, we had a very high point of view from like just surface. We scratched the surface of what went on in the book of
imagine Lord Enki witnessed the flood happen and no one really described it too well, right? These motherfuckers do because they was on the ground. Then he witnessed a whole nation rise up, leave fucking Chem, Egypt, like you guys know it, walk across and literally annihilate every giant race of kingdoms there were. Imagine him watch that and didn't really go into detail about it, but they do. They do here. It's insane. If you can make this a movie, this would be the movie of all movies. You might think the Anunnaki creation story and how they came to Earth. No, this specific one, dude, this is insanely sick, dude. You're going to see. I quit. I would quit. I quit. I don't want to fight this one.
During the time of the sacrifice of the loose-boweled fecal priests, I, Og, governed my half of the great land and Nimrod his. I, Og, continually marveled over the tranquil peace between our war tribes. Nimrod's Nephilim kingdom enforced circumcision, while Og's did not.
Okay, read that one again. Who did?
Nimrod's Nephilim kingdom enforced circumcision, while Og's did not.
So Nimrod's Nephilim, so Nimrod's fallen angels that were in charge of all them, forced all them to fucking chop their penises off, okay? And all of King Og's kingdoms, people, did not force them to. They were all uncircumcised, okay?
In that season, the kingdom of Og formed a pact of brotherhood with all remaining Rephaim tribes and lands. This pact introduced the vermin-like smaller selves to Baal worship, to worship Baal, us. In the pact, I called the mighty hunter Nimrod, blood of my own lineage. Now, with the death of all the remaining Rephaim upon Nimrod's dry fecal hands, I no longer honor the cowardly half-loin Nephilim hunter called Nimrod. Only a half-loin Nephilim coward murders a child. For this offense and more, I regularly urinated upon his dead fecal bones corpse, until the meat and offal peeled away. Till the end of my days, I will take the daily fecal journey to choke his Nephilim corpse. Of all of the warlike hatred of which volcanoes are formed, I hold the most for the disrespected skeletal remains of the Nephilim hunter, Nimrod, who led his kingdom in the loin-weakened member-carving practice of circumcision. I will tell tales of how the Nephilim vomit-soaked circumcised Nimrod offended all of the Rephaim, how in his stupidity half-loin Nimrod defied Baal, thus causing Baal of the earth to guide my unforgiving hands after war to his death. Will this and other stories not be told to Enoch for the very chapters of this book? One day I, Og, will finish my last meal and push my crumbed plate away and lay down to die. My hatred will cease, but the half-loined name of Nimrod will forever mean stupid. Nimrod's name shall mean the Nephilim fecalness of mind and the mangled of loin. He alone carries all of the disgrace of the Rephaim. All who'd circumcised their members claim allegiance to Nimrod.
Now, there you go. Stop right there. When they talk about Mark of the Beast, everyone thinks about some kind of 666, some evil symbol, some shit. That's the Mark of the Beast. You're circumcised. You don't agree? Keep listening until the last page, until, the final pages of the book. Not that it's there. I'm saying at the end of the story, you be the judge of what they considered to be the mark of the beast or not. You were evil. You were the bad one. You weren't of God. You weren't of them. You'll see.
Nimrod is the circumcised Nephilim who killed us all. Oh, that I could shatter his teeth in Nimrod's mouth again and break the teeth of his half-loin Nephilim sons Jotun had the satisfaction of killing. Nimrod's sons, whose name will not be mentioned, to blot them from the earth. First, before I can tell the story, it should be told how shrewd Nimrod the hunter was, what a good steward of his land he was. Oh, how much so I, Og, envied Nimrod as a warrior. How much so I, Og, envied Nimrod as a ruler.
Okay. I got my glasses on and start.
How much so I, Og, envied Nimrod as he forced the smaller selves build the throne room of Baalal.
Okay. So hold on one second. You see here that Og is in a different kingdom. He's a king of a different kingdom. And Nimrod is the king of this other kingdom. Of course, we know what's happening here. We know what's going down. And he looks over and he's jealous. He's like, dude, this dude's leading like a motherfucker. He's like got all these humans building this big throne room. And he's awesome. Look at him. So keep going.
I, Og, did not envy the circumcision or any of the lessening of the member that Nimrod chose for his Nephilim kingdom.
Boom.
Nimrod's land used the smaller cells for food in secret. He traded them to the kingdom of Og for labor in the open. Nimrod also forced the male Nephilim and the male smaller cells of his kingdom to carve their loins with the knife of circumcision.
Bloodletting.
Consumption of smaller selves in secret is the true mystery that Nimrod knew in governance.
There you go. So in Nimrod's kingdom, sacrifice and eating of people were eating of babies were part of cells. The smaller cells were part of the culture. Now, fast forward to that shit. And he was only called Nimrod in that book, right? We're going to track him back. I've already said who he is a million fucking times and shit. He's a person.
Consumption of smaller selves in secret is the true mystery that Nimrod knew in governance.
And that's what they practice still today. We hear about it all the time with the Illuminati people. It's the same motherfucker.
Nimrod, the dung smeared of mind and loin raised the smaller selves as secret food meat.
See?
Nimrod, the Nephilim, with an incomplete member who deceived and concealed his consumption of the adult male smaller selves. So it was adult male, sorry, not baby.
Yes. When
I
they say
smaller for
when
baby.
when they say smaller selves, they are giants.
Mm-hmm.
They mean us, humans, the small humans. Remember, these are half Anunnaki, half human. We were the human creation that they raped and pillaged and made these Raphaims that they're right now are speaking. So Nimrod had a Nephilim army. You hear that? Og is a Raphaim. Are you following? Are you following? So Nimrod is of the fallen angels. Og is of the children of the fallen angels. You heard that it was Nimrod was the reason of their destruction. He ain't talking about the whole world. He's talking about they killed the Raphaim. They killed all the giants. They went through and whooped their ass. Keep going.
At the end of the great battles with the unspeakable large-scale beasts of old, food in the kingdom of Og was scarce.
The fucking Leviathan and shit. They ate everything. These fucking giants ate everything. That's what the flood was for, to wipe them out. Some survived the flood, though. This is proof. This is after, or this is before the flood. Sorry.
The Rephaim brothers of animal husbandry, the great beast farmers and tamers, Gog and Magog, had both turned their gray eyes to the magnificent Leviathan and other beasts of the sea for meat.
So Gog,
beasts of old.
So Gog and Magog are, you can track those two giants going through, right? I think they might have stopped over there in Italy and made that motherfucker. And then look, where else did they go? England. Go look at England. They got Gog and Magog. That's what they worship there, right? Gog and Magog made fucking England's people. Go ahead, baby.
We fed upon the forgotten gods of a lesser time. During that season,
Titans.
During that season, sparse of food, I, Og, found a large colony of smaller selves in my kingdom. A colony of smaller selves riddled with Rephaim evils such as murder and rape, as they enslaved and harmed each other. The powerful kingdom of Og was not deceptive or crafty with the smaller selves as Nimrod was. Smaller self, adult males, were struck down and eaten in the open. We chose not to hide our hunger from the smaller selves. I did not require the loin carvings, circumcision that Nimrod required in his land. The Rephaim priests of Baal decreed all lands were not to feast upon the smaller self females. Smaller self females became pure priestesses, wives, and concubines of Baal. Not to be known by any member. Okay.
Now, go through history. You're going to see this. So what they're saying is in Nimrod's place, they ate everybody. It didn't matter. If they was hungry, they went and found people and ate them up in their whole kingdom. Now you might think in this little small spot. Don't think that small. Their kingdoms were motherfucking all the land.
I mean, they're giants. They needed more than a small town.
There was two kingdoms. One had all this. One had all that. Right? So in Og's kingdom, they didn't practice that. When they were hungry, they would find the biggest, strongest of the males and chop them up and eat them. But they never touched the women. And they found in their kingdom, in Og's kingdom, they found a group, like a whole civilization of fucking Nimrod's type fucks, where they were enslaving each other. And you hear that?
Yeah.
First humans,
I mean, basically
enslaving each other without anyone else. They was enslaving each other, carving each other up and eating them because they learned it from their masters, right? He went and put a stop to that and said, oh, hell no, we don't do that here. He ate all the men. And then he says, all the women, they never touched the women. They turned them into priestess. Man, go to Greece, go to all these places. And you see all these priestesses, the hottest chicks there ever was, are all virgins. They were never virgins. They were getting defiled by the man in charge of that priesthood. It's Medusa. Go look at Medusa. You're going to see they were being raped all the time. But no other men. They were only, that's like the oracles. The oracles were supposed to be these virgins. No, they weren't. They were having sex parties with the fucking priest dudes. You know what I'm saying? That's the truth about that shit. But to the normal man, like normal man's got brothels. They're fucking whores everywhere. You know what I'm saying? In those days, you could just grab a chick and bang them. It was just how it was. Not these chicks. You couldn't touch them. And that's just how it was through history. And this is crazy that's in this book. But these are the times, though, if you go back, and you go back and look at Greece times and look at what time they're talking about here, match these up. You're going to be like, holy shit, this is the fucking same time. They're talking about Odysseus went to this land of giants and the fucking Cyclops are throwing fucking rocks. This is them. This is fucking them, dude.
We taught the smaller selves not to kill or pain or rape. We taught the procreative value of the smaller self females. Nimrod and Og both taught the smaller selves Baal's truths during all times of peace and war. The Rephaim priests of Baal decreed the sacrifice of the tiny, worthless, smaller self children to undo the unspoken mistake. Nimrod's Nephilim kingdom and that Rephaim land of Og sacrificed all smaller self children with effectual, fervent ritual.
See, all smaller self children.
Being of one mind and spirit bleeding for Baal to undo the unspoken mistake.
So they're sacrificing children to Baal, okay? Now there's two sets of these people, right? There's one set that went on one side, like I said, the other people were on the other side. Now we can go across the world and find all the places that those cultures were sacrificing their children to their god, which was Baal, whatever they might have called them. They called them Baal. But that is those people from Nimrod's crew that they're talking about here. And the other ones didn't do this shit. That's why you got two people, two different kinds of things that says, you know, no, we want to sacrifice kids and that blood and that adrenochrome is really good. And then we got other people saying that is crazy. What are you talking about? That's our children, right? It's the same motherfucking fight going on forever, baby. Forever. For until the stars are gone. That's what he said. This is the curse and the fight that is going to happen forever until the stars are gone because of what happened.
The Rephaim must consider now themselves. The Rephaim must consider a return to the excreta of beginning. Every day brings the extinction of the Rephaim species closer. Consider Baal when you have given birth to a child at 500 years. Consider Baal again as each new star passes. It is Baal, our land fertile. It is Baal again produce Rephaim offspring. It is Baal that we cry out to and ask for extension. The smaller selves will birth the next Rephaim. Baal was spoken through the priestess. In death of the moonchild, our bracelets for Baal. Smaller self infants are scorched in the fire and scream to Baal nightly. There has been so much loss of life for him. Baal will extend us, make us fertile again. Og speaks of supplication to Baal of the earth.
Well, hold on one second. So if you guys don't know the unspeaking fucking thing that they happened, there was supposed to be an agreement. There was supposed to be a moonchild that was supposed to be given up. I forget exactly what it was, to be married in, I think. And this never happened because they stopped it. Remember, we read in the book of Enki, they stopped it. They blew up the fucking shit so it could never happen. So let's hear about some shit. It's crazy.
Baal of the earth has land with greenery and healthy vegetation, fruits and nuts. Baal of the earth also saw to Og's success in the 100,000 giant war. Baal, mountains to climb when the waters covered the earth. Baal guided my hands as I drew Nimrod's yellowing entrails from his quaking, misshapen, loined Nephilim body. Scream to Baal of the earth, all Rephaim, rejoice and scream. Scream and beg for the undoing of the unspoken mistake. Declare Baal's power aspects. Again, I say, scream and rejoice. Be it war or contention, it is that Baal that keeps our fields fertile, who keeps the peoples of the land. Remind Baal of the earth of fertility remind Baal of the extension. Ascribe to Baal, all of you Rephaim. Ascribe to Baal the land's fertility and your physical strength. Smaller self-child offerings and come before Baal. Scream and bleed in the fertility toward to us for our worship, the fertility that will prolong the Rephaim. Tremble before the all-powerful Baal, before his established land of fertility that cannot be moved, before his altar, and bleed on thee. We await the extension as we scream, come, Lord Baal, in unison with our wounds.
So they're bloodletting, sacrificing kids and bloodletting.
Just screaming up to him.
Cutting themselves, bleeding all over this altar, believing that
He'll come and save them all.
God would come and save them all. This is the Rephaim. Now you can look up Tartaria. You can look up pictures from just, I think, 1900s. And giant people, giant men. Those are the last Rephaim on this planet. There might be some somewhere around still, some giants that are over 8 feet tall, but this is them. That was the last ones, and they're gone.
Baal of the earth will extend the Rephaim in his time. Not by our will, but by Baal's will can the extension take place.
What if basketball players are Rephaim children? Like they're 7, 8
they're
foot
so
tall.
freaking tall. We await Baal. We will not falter, even if he does not deliver. The smaller self prophetess has prophesied the following that applies to the land. I am Baal, your God, who delivered you from Nimrod in the 100,000 giant war. I am Baal of the earth, who will provide the extension to the Rephaim. Because of this, you will bleed yourself before no other gods. I do not honor the circumcision. It is good for the Rephaim not to know the smaller selves. You will not cut your members for any of the other insect-sized gods that demand it. May the destruction of my enemies buried in their punishment until the end of time. Worship me, and I, Baal, will extend your of power and give you. Consider this. A time is coming when you will all worship Baal Haman. He is coming in storm. Every eye will see him, even those that practice circumcision. Let the enemies tremble and let the earth shake. The great Baal of the Rephaim stands above the first insect-sized gods. Filth is the land of his heritage. All will ascribe penance and worship. Blood sacrifice is fertility. I will empower. Do not tire Baal's power. As you see the lush country, as your crops, as Kaor, the Abel, and Farshen has palsied, served as temple stewards. Speaking through the smoke from the darkened sacrificial fire, the worship must frenzy and gash with knives and lances. Baal, Yor, delivers the promised extension of Rephaim lineage. Proclaim the power of Baal and the fertile mountain. Continue. I will extend you.
Marduk is just one son of a bitch, ain't he?
And he's been
Marduk. That's Marduk talking right there.
Yeah.
That is Marduk.
That is Marduk.
He is technically a fallen angel, right? Marduk. He wasn't of the fallen, but he is the same race, and he married a woman, had a human child, which that's the faces of all the Sphinx now is that person. A Rephaim. Holy shit.
Yeah, that is wild. So the next one is chapter 2a, the moon child.
And he don't like the circumcised. So like I said, when we're children, we don't get to pick. They cut our dicks. Knowing what I know, right? Maybe I would have made a different decision. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the mark that they can tell who the fuck is who. And who the followers are. It doesn't matter if you didn't get to choose. What matters is that your lineage depicts who you followed, who you really are following. You know what I'm saying? By your cock. That's fucked up, man. You don't want to read the Moonchild?
I can.
Yeah.
It's starting a new chapter though. So
Yeah, Moonchild's great.
All right. The Lost Book of Og, King Og, Chapter 2a, The Moonchild. It is through gnashing teeth that I give you full vent of my bitterness. My soul is downcast and disturbed. My history has become a fire, corrupting my whole life unto the extinction of the Rephaim. I tell this terrible history to Enoch, the keeper of the bodies, before Baal, for its transcription. My wrath tends to evil words, anger, wrath, malice, and obscene talk all fall from my lips as I speak. I still hold the Mot-worshipping Nimrod responsible for the death of the Moonchild and the full portion of my hatred. Nimrod, that brutish, circumcised hater of reproof, the one who has planted and watered the gnarled living thicket that is my loathing. I tell no lie. I loved not my brother, whom I have seen, yet loved Baal of the earth, whom I have not seen. Although Nimrod, my brother, no longer walks the land, my swelling wrath still grows for him in the darkness. The tale of Nimrod and his quest to carve the members of the giants of his army and the rest of the land forevermore with circumcision. Does it not follow these very words transcribed by Enoch?
So he took people that were not circumcised. They were giants, right? They were the Rephaim giants. Remember, the Nephilim would have had already circumcised penises because they weren't born with a penis sheath. But anything born of earth is born with a cover over your penis head so we don't scratch it up on everything because we're supposed to be naked running through the woods. Imagine running through this shit above my head. Your dick's all swinging and shit. Hell no, man. At least they give us a little cover so the head's, protected. So he went and made sure all those giants, not the little people, maybe the little people too, all the giants got their penises cut so that they looked like him. They couldn't be able to tell them apart,
The tale of Nimrod and his circumcision. In the time before the unspoken mistake, when Og's land heralded Nimrod's accomplishments, Nimrod was called the Great Hunter and a killer of large giants and things. While on the field of battle, Nimrod did sustain a loin injury when he engaged the one-eyed Rephaim named Arg in warfare. That very same one-eyed Arg who fought alongside Og in the 100,000 Giant War.
So this is after the 100,000 Giant War, guys. Get that straight. So this is after the flood.
When Nimrod wounded Arg's neck with the driver and chaser, Arg's unconscious body fell to the ground with his outstretched hand still grasping his sword. The sword's blade sliced upward at Nimrod's loins, cutting open his foreskin. The skin of Nimrod's wounded member hung as a testimony to all that he escaped the field of battle. Arg's giant army soon heard of the wound and knew to search the loins of the dead Nephilim on the field of battle for the circumcision of Nimrod. Nimrod knew his own vulnerability. He then returned to his army and reclined to his tent. He took the flint of a mountaintop and finished his own circumcision and bound his loins in sackcloth. Nimrod then had the braids of his head shorn. He shaved his head and his eyebrows and anointed his head with oil. His cup was then filled with wine. He reclined and considered. After a short spell, he arose and sacrificed many smaller selves and beseeched Mot for a delay in battle. Nimrod then took to the mountain flint and circumcised 1,000 Nephilim of his army. Those that refused were cut down by axe. Chaser and driver and their Nephilim bodies were tied to trees for the beasts, as tradition states. Most caused a bowel sickness to afflict Arg's army. Nimrod's army rested and healed for 5 days while Arg's army recovered. And Nimrod said, with the flint of a mountaintop, heaps upon heaps I have circumcised 1,000 men. And is not the valley where Nimrod circumcised the Nephilim still called the Valley of First Foreskins to this day?
Wow.
On the 6th day, Nimrod and his army then went to war with no lower garments or loin coverings. the armies of Arg did not know which Nephilim was Nimrod in battle.
Yep, cock swinging. He did it for cover. See, they knew. They heard, oh man, this dude got his dick cut. We got to just look for a dude with a dick cut. You know, everyone else has got this big old penis sheet sticking out. So it looks like a little worm, right? So like, well, we got to see the guy with his little turtle head sticking out, a little mushroom. And they knew it would be him, right? So that he shaved his head, shaved his eyebrows so you couldn't tell if it was him. I mean, that would stick right out, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
And then he did it to the rest of all his people and then circumcised, he said, heaps. He had heaps of skin behind him. Oh, foreskin.
Yeah.
Imagine all the cheese they probably found. They probably ate that shit.
Oh, God.
This is better than goat cheese.
One-eyed Arg's army gazed upon the compromised members of Nimrod's army and were befuddled and dumbfounded by them.
Befuddled.
Nimrod's giants then attacked with clubs, driver and chaser, fists, boulders, and trees, and slew them all but one-eyed Arg.
Yep.
And his bodyguards, who escaped to the forests and mountains. When Nimrod became ruler of his portion of the great land, he then demanded circumcision throughout all of his Nephilim kingdom. I, Og, circumcised no males in my land. The Rephaim kept their members intact. After Nimrod's mandated circumcision, the 7-year famine began. For Baal of the earth was displeased. The famine from Baal of the earth consumed the land. The very earth itself was dry and stiff with the wounds at this time. Then came the false prophecy from the Nephilim and Rephaim priests of Baal in both lands. The false prophecy led to the unspoken mistake and to our extinction. I have hated everything Nimrod has loved, as I have hated his circumcised Nephilim kingdom. If I hated my circumcised brother giant and became a murderer of circumcised giants because of my hatred, so be it. I have a place in the afterlife. Baal and Mot have considered my oaths between them and seen to it. Baal of the earth has damned Nimrod's name to eternally mean fecal, minded, and simple. Nimrod's name shall be associated with the mad desire to maim genitals forevermore.
And it is, though. You call someone a Nimrod.
You do. That is
Nimrod.
Literally exactly what it is. Nimrod means that you're like a dumbass.
Yeah.
For Nimrod grew like a young plant, like a root out of dry ground. He had form and majesty that we should all look at him, and beauty that we should desire him. He was championed by many. Still I despise and reject him. He became a giant of sorrows, acquainted with grief. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Circumcised Nimrod, the celebrated forefather of the tower of the smaller selves. It is the fecal-bellied, half-membered Nimrod who killed us all. My hatred for Nimrod has become greater than any love I have known. I, Og, have exceedingly and cruelly hated Nimrod. I, Og, have since eradicated him from existence. I have since gathered and eaten all of Nimrod's food stores, and I have eaten many of his smaller selves. Baal of the earth empowered. I, Og, to rid the land of Nimrod. Baal of the earth despised the circumcision. And to whom did the powerful arm of Baal of the earth reveal itself to? I, Og. Are the tales of how I avenged the earth of that circumcised Nephilim for the loss of the moon child, and more are they not told in this very chapter transcribed by Enoch? Og tells his brief history. Lest the queen of the Rephaim and I, Og, were bred from the spoils of a Rephaim procreation harvest, born of worship to Baal of the moon, born in the temple and reared in the high places. I, Og, trained in both the priesthood of Baal and with the chaser and driver war arts. Lestha became a sorceress before Baal of the moon, and a transcriber of words. Others born in the temple and trained in the high places at that time were Sihon Og, my brother, Oya, Hahaya, Mawe, Mir, Lathat, the possessed, and Gurion, the heavy. Before the 100,000 Giant War, before the confused circumcision, and before the unspoken mistake, there was a time of lush success. Ball of the earth caused the waters to flow and for crops to flourish in all of the great land at the time.
That's Enki.
The great land was alive. The colors, sounds, and connections of being in the land were bright and different. The feed animals were sleek and fat. The herds of lizard, elephant, and rhinoceros prospered.
You heard that. Go again.
The colors, sounds, and connections of being in the land were bright and different. The feed animals were sleek and fat. The herds of lizard, elephant, and rhinoceros prospered.
You heard it. You heard it. When they say, I would always ask the priests and the fathers in the church, I would say, if your Bible's true history, show me where the dinosaurs are. They fucking herded dinosaurs, proving they're giants. They herded elephants, but they were woolly mammoths. They herded rhinoceroses. What the fuck, dude? They had grain beasts. You might say, well, the horned ones, those are antelopes and shit. And no, they had grain beasts. And then they herded all the monsters that we think are huge animals. They herded these fucking things for food. Jesus Christ. They herded dinosaurs.
Wine flowed, fruit, nuts, and honey were plentiful. Peace ruled all the land. There were no smaller selves in that time. The season, ball of the earth, multiplied the nation of the Rephaim. This was during the foreign war between Nimrod and Tarshan, the giant's army.
You heard that. In the times before, they were smaller selves. They're not talking about like they are the fallen ones. Okay. They are the children of the fallen ones. The smaller selves are us. 6 foot tall people. All the people then were giants. Even the creation were giants. Right? So this is crazy, dude. There was no smaller ones back then. Only us. Like in biblical times, like Jesus and stuff. Like he was probably our size. Like they were walking around. They were grasshoppers in their hands. They were us. Tiny little people looking up going, oh shit, man, they're going to drop a ball on us or something.
This was during the foreign war between Nimrod and Tarshan, the giant's army. Tarshan, the giant who later fought on Og's behalf in the 100,000 Giant War. The birth of Ogyas. In our 300th year, the panic of childbirth seized my wife Lestha after she had become heavy with offspring. She then bore me, Ogyas, the inheritor, after travailing through great pain and labor. The birthing crippled Lestha, bedridden for 10 years. I took to connecting with Ogyas. His breath became my breath. He became a good prince in the eyes of the kingdom and all who surrounded him. I taught him the ways, ball of the moon, the managing of my kingdom, the ways of the giant lizards, the ways of the elephants and rhinoceros, the ways of floating wild beasts.
Dude, what?
Yep.
Dude, he literally is saying when I always talk about, man, giants beget giants. Why don't we ever hear about the moms? Like if they just spit out these humongous fucking monster humans, whatever happened to them, they probably died. There's a recall. She was bedridden for 10 years. It broke her ass. And then he taught him the ways of the giants and the giant lizards and the giant rhinoceroses and the things that floated in the fucking sea, the monsters. Oh, man, this is fantastic.
I then taught Ogyas the ways of connection. Through battle and through acquaintance, he was connected. From ball of the moon, sun, ground, or earth, and the host of the skies, to the animals, creeping things, and floating wild beasts, Ogyas was connected. With favor, I favored him, and with love, I loved him. I entered covenant with Ogyas, because I loved him as my own soul. I then gave him the skin of Leviathan. I then gave him hammered armor. I trained him with the driver and chaser. Ogyas, the son of Og, proved himself great in war before both Baal and the Rephaim. Because of Ogyas' strong ways of connection, the Gontiqua soon chose him.
Contigua. See, he had dragon armor, dragon skin armor.
Ogyas then became the herdsman of beast and lizard between the groves of sycamore figs. When the 100,000 giant war began, Ogyas, the inheritor, was a leader over many powerful giants in war. Those with the floating beasts, drivers and chasers, and more. Is not the tale of the 100,000 giant war as told to Anak, the keeper of the bodies, and Onzal, the slayer of the smaller selves, before Baal, not transcribed in this very book? The unspoken mistake. In the 4th year of drought and frost by night, the false Rephaim and Nephilim priests of Baal of the earth, moon, sun, and all the host of heaven led the giants to the unspoken mistake.
So could you read that one more time? Because this is what we're stuck in now is all these different religions. Where do they come from? Who made them? So here we go. You're gonna, when you hear the word priest, this is the priest. It's the people who made fucking religion. Let's hear who the fuck they were.
In the 4th year of drought and frost by night, the false Rephaim and Nephilim priests of Baal of the earth, moon, sun, and all of the host of heaven led the giants to the unspoken mistake.
Look at that.
Queen Lestha was henceforth known through both kingdoms as the last of the giant females. We should not have trusted the prophets of Baal, whose forecasts and divining became as those who turn the wise backwards and render the knowledgeable foolish. I already have spoken of their death judgment. In this season, the smaller cells were found in both lands. Found in both lands.
Found.
From that time forth, only the smaller cell females were trained to serve in the temples as priestesses and sorceresses. The proper use of smaller cells were as slaves, temple servants, and food for the giants.
You heard that. We were what? What was humans? I don't give a fuck what color you were. What were humans?
I'll read it again. In this season, the smaller selves were found in both lands. From that time forth, only the smaller self females were trained to serve in the temples as priestesses and sorceresses. The proper use of smaller selves were as slaves, temple servants, and food for the giants. Smaller self men indeed became food for the giants, and their male offspring were indeed burnt in sacrifice to Baal of the earth in the hills above the kingdom of Og. So if you were a dude back then, that's not a good thing.
There you go. We weren't, no one owned the land. To say you own some land and shit, that's what we were to them. We were human, we were food, we were slaves, we were
like we
servants.
were the sheep and pigs that they looked at, like literally. We just spoke and had opposable thumbs. Like it was, we could just do more versus hopping around and eating grass like a fucking cattle.
To say you want these things to come back, and I'm waiting for Jesus to come back. I'm waiting for these times to come back.
This is what will come back.
This is what you're asking for. These times. You're fucking out your mind, dude. I don't want to be food.
Nimrod's kingdom chose to circumcise the males of the smaller selves. He allowed the smaller selves to marry. He didn't sacrifice their offspring as the Rephaim did. Circumcised Nimrod became the champion of the smaller selves and their great circumcised hunter. The Moonchild. My teeth grind and my throat rumbles as I tell Anak the root of my hatred for Nimrod with hope that the fruit will bear upward.
You got to remember, there's a whole bunch of male giants. There's only one female giant left after the 100,000 war and after the flood. There's only one chick left that they could make more giants.
And she was bedridden for 10 years after she birthed the last one. I mean, damn.
That was Og's mom. Og's mom was a human chick. That's why he was Rephaim. But to make more Rephaims,
it was Lestha, crippled Lestha for 10 years. Oh, Lestha is the last.
Oh, okay. My bad.
It's
I thought
Lestha.
they went to another queen.
Lestha is the same chickie.
All right, cool. Wow.
Yep. The Moonchild. I heard that part already. Many years after the unspoken mistake, Baal of the Moon sorceresses prophesied that Lestha would be with a Rephaim Moonchild. Lestha was past the years of childbearing and still afflicted by the wounds of Ogyas, the inheritor's birth.
Yes, remember, they were having kids at 500 years old. That was fair game, 500 years.
Lestha mocked and ridiculed the sorceresses to scorn for the prophecy. The priestesses warned Lestha not to mock Baal of the moon. After I am worn and waxed old, and my Og is old too, will we have delight? She teased. How am I, the last of the Rephaim females, bearing a child of the moon? She mocked.
She didn't believe.
In Lestha's anger, she removed herself from the place of worship to her forest, resided there until the end of her days.
First witch.
The sacrifices continued. The sorceresses then prophesied, saying, Baal will bring Og's history forth. The moonchild of Og will be Baal's legacy. And the unspoken mistake has killed its thousands, and the moonchild will restore tens of thousands. The moonchild was Baal of the moon's most fertile gift to prolong the Rephaim and Nephilim species. The most fertile gift required heavy sacrifice. For 7 months under the moon, the drums were beaten, which shook the firmament of the land. We slaughtered and sacrificed innumerable smaller self-infants and males in the high places. The undrunk blood rolled through the block stone channels to the lower earth. The burnt offerings of the smaller self-infants and males smoldered and darkened the skies. For 7 months, we seared the flesh of the smaller selves for the moonchild in sacrifice. We ate the flesh and drank the blood in the sight of Baal of the moon. We never doubted. When the 7th moon had passed, Lestha had grown heavy with moonchild. She then went into labor, toiling with the moonchild for many days. The sorceresses flayed themselves mightily before Baal of the moon. Many died. On the 7th day, the moonchild, the last female Rephaim, was born. Lestha did not heal and soon turned stiff.
So dark.
I, Og, laid myself out before Baal of the moon's altar for 2 days, pleading. On the 3rd day, Lestha died. With Queen Lestha's death, Baal of the moon's promise had both depleted and blessed the Rephaim. In mourning Lestha, I celebrated the birth of the moonchild. The second false prophecy. At this time, Mot spoke through Nimrod's sorceresses, telling them that the suitor for the moonchild was in Nimrod's kingdom. This was another false prophecy that ended species of giants. As I, Og, mourned the loss of Lestha, Nimrod and his military leaders traveled and visited the kingdom of Og to view the moonchild. Nimrod, the circumcised, then spoke to the giants of Og's kingdom and spoke of the prophecy of Mot. Nimrod requested that the moonchild be raised in Mot's temple in his Nephilim kingdom. When Nimrod spoke, the darkness of Baal's spirit and truth was in the air. Nimrod told us all the moonchild's purpose would be to breed in Mot's procreation harvest. I, Og, disagreed, and my military removed Nimrod, his circumcised military leaders, from Og's kingdom. The moonchild is wounded. Early in the moonchild's life, at a time of celebration and feasting, spies made their way to the moonchild's chambers to steal her for the purposes of Nimrod. When found, the spies, great violence and destructive rage, did not know that the moonchild was among them. In combat, the moonchild was wounded almost unto death. In the center hall, the remaining spies stood, and the army of Og stood aside, as I, Og, attacked with hip and thigh, bare hands, and, killing them all with no weapons, slew 30 giants with my fists. As I tore and ripped into the giants, I learned of their circumcision, learned from their bloody corpses that they were from the circumcised kingdom of Nimrod. The false prophecy of Mot and the treachery of Nimrod begat the seeds that soon grew to become the 100,000 giant war. For this and more, I hate Nimrod with all of the hatred I have in my intact loins. His circumcised offenses against the Moonchild and the kingdom of Og demanded a whole-membered response. The tales of how I, Og, got my terrible hands upon Nimrod the circumcised, how I broke him into glistening wet entrails and pieces, how I, Og, allowed my son, Ogias, to participate in the killing of Nimrod the circumcised. Has that tale not been told to Ongzal, the slayer of the smaller selves, before Baal? Would you like to keep going?
Yes, fascinating. So here's the thing, though. There's a dude just talking about ripping a dude to pieces.
Mm-hmm.
He ain't small. He ain't small. He's super powerful. He's huge. He's pissed. So basically, you got this Moonchild. It's supposed to be the thing that's can keep the Raphaim, the giants, keep going. They need to keep breeding with this one kid and have more giants be made. There's one woman left, and she births a girl, and they're like, oh, well, she needs to be raised. Remember, Og raises the women, and no one touches them, right? But this one they need to breed with. They have to do a breeding program. But Og wants to keep her in his kingdom where they have a peaceful breeding program. You know, basically, he knows she'll be well taken care of. She'll have a kid. It won't be all crazy. In Nimrod's kingdom, they're fucking vicious animals. They're going to rape the fuck out of her. She's going to be treated like a slave and be breeding, like the hills have eyes type shit. You know what I'm saying? And they were like, oh, hell no, you ain't. And they forcefully removed them. And then, but they were like, oh, motherfucker. And they stole her anyway. And in the battle, the fucking kid gets fucking mortally injured.
They don't even realize she's around. Like, they're in to get her, and they just start fucking spewing their swords and hatred and rah!
And they're all giants.
And they like forget there's a fucking child in the room.
A baby. She's a baby. She's literally a baby.
So I think it's very interesting, though, you know, the difference between Nimrod and King Og's kingdoms when it comes to the little people, us. So King Og openly, the Rephaim openly are killing, eating, like they don't give a fuck about little people. We are basically pigs to them, except for like the women who go and learn priestesses and stuff like that. Nimrod, however, actually treats us kind of civilly.
No, that's odd. Nimrod kills everybody, eats everybody.
Okay.
King Og doesn't touch the women, but kills all the men and kills all the babies. They both do that shit.
But yeah, one's a little worse than the other.
Yeah, they're vicious over in Nimrod's kingdom. They literally will kill everybody. They do all kinds of bad shit over there. And all of them are servants, though. Everyone's a servant. Everyone gets eaten. But they were saying how Og's telling the story here. So he hates Nimrod. Remember, the victor tells the story. So he's saying how his kingdom's better because, yeah, we do this, but we don't do that to them. They actually are treated well. Like they fatten them up before they eat them and shit. Their women are treated very good. You know, in King Nimrod's kingdom, he's jealous. He's jealous. Here, read it again. Yeah, he's jealous of Nimrod because of how good he is and how awesome he is.
So the unspoken mistake. In this season, the smaller cells were found in both lands. From that time forth, only the smaller cell females were trained to serve in the temples as priestesses and sorceresses. The proper use of smaller cells were as slaves, temple servants, and food for the giants. Smaller self men indeed became food for the giants, and their male offspring were indeed burnt and sacrificed to Baal of the earth in the hills above the kingdom of Og. So Og burnt the dudes.
Yes.
And the women went into the temple.
And in
Nimrod's kingdom chose to circumcise the males of the smaller cells. He allowed the smaller cells to marry. He didn't sacrifice their offspring as the Rephaim did. Circumcised Nimrod became the champion of the smaller cells, and they were great circumcised hunters. So Nimrod was the champion. He was the one that was like, nah, man, let these guys be. You know, we'll use them as we need to. They're good for what they're good for. Og was like, nah, the women have power. The men are food.
You know why, though, right? I had it backwards. Because you know who Nimrod is, really. Okay, so Nimrod, that's why he became the power of the people. Nimrod's who built the Tower of Babel. If you guys know, he's the king that built the Tower of Babel after the flood. So go ahead. We'll get back to it. All we got to do is pick up the other book and go to the back and see Nimrod, and you'll be like, holy shit.
The Lost Book of King Og, Chapter 2b, The Prophecy of King Og. Introduction by Enoch, Keeper of the Bodies. It is known that as the moonchild lay close to death in the temple of Baal of the moon, King Og then clothed himself with a long white robe with a golden sash across his chest. He refused food and drink and chained his arms by the rings within the temple of Baal of the moon. In his right hand he held Og hung upon chains while standing for 7 days until the death of the moonchild. Only the smaller self-sorceresses and I, Enoch, keeper of the bodies, attended to him. In his trance, Og's 7 braids fell about his head, and his eyes darkened and turned inward. The temple of Baal of the moon was closed as Og hung upon chains before Baal and pleaded for the life of the moonchild. So when the elders of the Rephaim went to the temple of Baal of the moon to rid Og of his chains, they were refused. He would not be freed, nor would he eat food with them. On the 3rd day of Og's hanging silence in the temple of Baal of the moon, he raised his head and spoke the prophecy. On the 3rd day, Og's hair turned as white as wool. His eyes became clear as a flame of fire. His body glowed dimly, a burnished bronze. His face became as the sun shining full force. His voice became as the sounds of the great waters to come. I, Enoch, keeper of the bodies, did both observe and transcribe the prophetic words of King Og at this time. This is Og's prophecy that pitted the Rephaim against the Nephilim in the 100,000 Giant War, as transcribed by I, Enoch.
So who the fuck is Og, baby? Who's Og? Who's the motherfucker that had the whole powerful hair? They chained him up to the temple for 7 days and shit. Didn't give him no food. And they chopped off his hair. Holy shit, that's motherfucking Samson, baby. This is Samson we're hearing right now.
The prophecy of King Og, Baal of the earth. Do not be afraid, for I am Baal of the earth, the first and the last. I am the living one. I am alive forever and ever. I, Baal of the earth, know your works, your toils, and your patient endurance with the abomination. I know that you cannot tolerate the circumcision. I know that you have tested the Rephaim that claim to be whole-membered and found some to be false. It is to your credit that you hate Nimrod, whom I also hate. I, Baal of the earth, know of your affliction and of the moonchild. I know that the slander of the circumcised is spoken against you. Do not fear for the war that you are about to suffer. Be faithful to Baal of the earth and abhor circumcision until your death, and I will give you rewards. Let he who has ears listen to what Baal of the earth has to say through his servant Og. Baal of the moon. And I saw the moonchild clothed with the sun and the moon at their feet. On her head was the crown of the Rephaim. She was pregnant and crying out in birth pangs in the agony of giving birth. Then the great circumcised dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns appeared before the moonchild. The dragon stood before the moonchild, ready to devour the new Rephaim as soon as it was born. And the moonchild gave birth to a son, a male child who was to rule all of the giant nations with a rod of iron. But the moonchild's son was snatched from her and eaten by the dragon, and the moonchild went to the wilderness to die, a victim of the circumcised. For the sins against the moonchild are heaped high to heaven, and Baal of the moon will not forgive the iniquity of her death. Render unto the moonchild as she herself has rendered. Repay her land double for your circumcised deeds of destruction. The uncircumcised will mix a cup for the moonchild, a double draught to pour out in remembrance of her. For in the moonchild's heart she was a queen, and she will never see grief. Therefore the plagues of Baal and Mot will come to Nimrod in a single day, pestilence, mourning, and famine for the circumcised. For the moonchild was killed by Nimrod, and the hour of his judgment has come. Do not be afraid, for I am Baal of the moon. I will avenge the moonchild, and I will deliver Nimrod into your hands, to the circumcised. I know where you are living, where Nimrod's throne is, yet you hold fast to your irreversible circumcision. You stupid giants hold to the teachings of Nimrod, who through circumcision has placed a stumbling block before all of you. You circumcised will throw dust upon your heads. You circumcised will weep and mourn as you are tied to trees for the beasts and carrion to consume. For you have laid waste to the moonchild. Baal of the moon rises in judgment for her, a star from the sky upon you, O circumcised Nephilim. With such violence, Nimrod's great cities will be thrown down. The sounds of harpists and minstrels and flutists and trumpeters will be heard in Nimrod's land no more. Artisans of any trade will be found in Nimrod's lands no more. The light of lamps will be found in Nimrod's lands no longer. For Nimrod and his entire nation were deceived by great sorcery, and all of his prophets will be slaughtered by servants of Baal of the moon for the loss of the moonchild.
Fuck yeah.
Baal of the sun. Behold the words of Baal of the sun. I hold this against the Rephaim, that you tolerate the giant Nimrod, who calls himself a great hunter and is teaching and beguiling the Rephaim to practice circumcision and not to sacrifice the smaller selves. I gave him time to repent, but Nimrod refuses to repent of his circumcision. Beware, I am throwing Nimrod on a bed, and those that practice circumcision with him, I am sending my servant Og to bring them great distress.
I don't want no giant to come and chop me down because somebody got my dick chopped up, man. That's fucked up.
Og will strike down Nimrod circumcised with death. All of the land will know that Baal of the sun does not respect the circumcised. To Og I will give authority over the nations and people, to rule them with an iron rod, as when the clay pots are shattered. I, Baal of the sun, will give Og the morning star.
The morning star. It's Venus.
Look before you. I have set an open door, which no one is able to shut. A door of victory over the circumcised. I will keep you to hold fast to what you have, so that no circumcised may seize the crown of Og. I will make Og a pillar in the temple of Baal of the sun. And I, Baal of the sun, call for the 100,000 giant war, where the circumcised will finally be eradicated. I, Baal of the sun, that sits in the throne that looks like jasper and carnelian. All around my throne is the emerald floor, and my 24 servants, all wearing golden crowns and white robes.
Wow.
Coming from all of our thrones will be flashes of lightning and rumblings and peals of thunder. And under this there will be a multitude of Rephaim, from all tribes, people, and languages, standing before Baal of the sun with palm tree fronds in their hands, screaming in a loud voice, "Victory belongs to the uncircumcised who are seated in the kingdom of Og. Let there be blessings and glory and wisdom and honor and power and might to Baal, for the son of the sun, forever and ever."
So now you might be confused a little bit and say, wait a minute, I thought they didn't like the circumcised. But the fallen are born uncircumcised. If you bred with anything from this earth, you have a penis sheath. And then they know the ones that chop that penis sheath off. So they're saying in Og's kingdom, there's, uncircumcised people. They're everywhere, all over. Like Og was probably uncircumcised. He probably had a penis sheath. He was the fallen, or he was a Rephaim. But the Nephilim, right? The Nephilim that lived in his kingdom, the actual fallen angels, their daddies and shit, their mamas, they were uncircumcised. Those were the ones that would be praised and be the ones that were going to win. because those were, Marduk was in charge of them. Marduk was up on Mars for a long time, in charge of them. And when they came down for his wedding, that's why they came. They were like, Marduk, man, let's come to your wedding. And they was like, oh, look at these bitches. They were still his friends. Azazel, that's his buddy. Shinyaza, what you call Satan, that was his buddy. All these other so-called demons that were bad and shit, that was Marduk's buddies. So when he became Baal of the Sun, right, he was still friends with all them. Those were his people. That's what he used to rule this whole fucking world. Now, what did he say? He said, all my servants have crowns on them with white robes. And how many were there?
24, I think I read. Let me double check.
24 servants.
Coming from all of our thrones. Yes, all around my throne is the emerald floor and my 24 servants, all wearing golden crowns and white robes.
And they'll be sending thunder and lightning down to this battlefield, right? Well, what he's describing there is when the Bureau came through with all of its fucking moons and shit, and destroyed the fucking planet with thunder and lightning and rain. This is when he was like, you guys are gonna whoop their ass, but yo, I'm be up here and we're gonna bring that thunder and shit. And they did. They destroyed the fucking planet.
These are the Rephaim that fight the great war against circumcision. They have not spilled the blood of their members for Nimrod. For this reason, the Rephaim are before the thrones of Baal of the Sun and his 24 servants, who worship him day and night in his temple. The Rephaim will hunger no more and thirst no more, and the sun will not strike them, nor any of its scorching heat, for Baal of the Sun has spoken. Baal of the stars and celestial bodies. Behold, it is I, Baal of the stars and celestial bodies, with my 4 guardians standing in the corners of the great land, the guardians that hold back the wind so that no wind will blow against any temple of Baal or against the uncircumcised. Yet I, Baal of the stars and celestial bodies, called to my guardians who are empowered to damage the great land and the seas until the circumcised have been ridded from the great land.
So one of those gods, another god, wants all the circumcised people off earth. Don't give a fuck about what your color is.
Prepare, circumcised followers of Nimrod, to have your stomachs to turn sour. Prepare for your spittle to dry in your mouth.
Spittle.
Prepare for your skin to be tight from lack of water. Prepare to be unable to bathe. Prepare for your terrible beast to die of thirst. For I, Baal of the stars and celestial bodies, have left your circumcised land.
So there's God left. God left. God of the heavens. That's what he's saying.
Let there be silence in the heavens for more than an hour. For Baal of the stars and celestial bodies has a message for the Rephaim. After the silence, Baal of the stars and celestial bodies will throw his censer filled with fire to earth.
So what was that?
He will throw his, it says censer because it's not sure how to translate it, filled with fire to earth.
So he's gonna fucking bomb Earth with fucking some kind of meteor, some kind of fire, brimstone, baby. You know how God does it.
And there will be peals of. Hang on.
That's that good shit. Take a little break. You know what I'm saying? How's everybody doing today? It's motherfucking Sunday.
Cheers. Okay. Where am I? Let there be silence in the heavens for more than an hour, for Baal of the stars and celestial bodies has a message for the Rephaim. After the silence, Baal of the stars and celestial bodies will throw his censer filled with fire to earth, and there will be peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and earthquakes. There will be hail and fire mixed with blood as the circumcised are dashed to the earth. A third of Nimrod's kingdom will be burned, and a third of his trees burned, and all of the green grass in his land. Baal of the stars and celestial bodies will drop a great star from heaven, blazing like a torch upon Nimrod, his circumcised Nephilim, and his rivers. The name of the star is uncircumcised worm, and Nimrod's waters have become bitter. As with the yeah.
Hold on. They're going to drop a star on this motherfucker. So literally, there's a comet or a star up in the sky. They're about to drop a star on the shit, and it's called the uncircumcised worm. So other people call it wayworm, wyvern, the red dragon. These are been all names for this fucking thing that came and fucked our planet up, right? But they're literally describing that they knew. Remember in the Lost Book of Enki, they felt something was different. The Earth is changing. What's going on? So they put observation stations everywhere, and they said, "Oh shit, dude, Nibiru's coming right at us. Like our planet with all those fucking moons, a net force. You know, it looks like a fucking eye with a crown on it." And they're literally giving the humans the heads up. Like they're telling them, hey man, don't worry. Like when you guys are in the middle of that battle, we're going to send a fucking star down on top of them motherfuckers, dude. We're going to fuck everybody up.
Be ready. It's going to hit you too, but we're going to fuck them up.
We're going to cause earthquakes and we're going to send lightning down and shit like that. When they knew that when their planet passed by, all those things were going to happen. They knew that was going to happen. They were like, yeah, watch, we're going to do all this shit to them. None of that happened, though. They were saying that was what was going to happen, but they were describing the planet. That's what's going to happen to all the uncircumcised, all the unworthy people that were still left at the time. You know, God said the humans were making noises and shit. They were too loud. So this is what's going to happen.
The name of the star is uncircumcised worm. And Nimrod's waters have become bitter, as with the blood of a corpse, and many of his circumcised Nephilim will die from it. On that day, Baal of the stars and celestial bodies will strike a third of the sun and a third of the moon and a third of all stars, so that a third of Nimrod's light has darkened.
Yeah, so look at the map now. Go through Africa and all over the whole planet. There's a third of our planet is scorched of everything. Is it not? Is it not? Is there not a desert that wraps around this fucking planet? That's a third. Bam. They're describing it.
Woe to the inhabitants of Nimrod's circumcised land. They shall be plunged into darkness, where the Nephilim will gnaw at their own tongues in agony, and they will be covered with pain and sores. Nimrod's great city will be split into 3 parts by an earthquake. The wrath of Baal of the stars and celestial bodies will be poured out upon Nimrod and his kingdom, and the wine cup of the fury of his wrath will be splashed about. And all of Nimrod's land will sink, and no mountains will be found, and huge hailstones weighing as large hillsides will be dropped from the celestial bodies upon the circumcised until they curse Baal of the stars and celestial bodies because of their corrupted members.
Wow.
I, Baal of the stars and celestial bodies, will then drop a star upon the great land that will fall through the earth into the bottomless pit, and the shaft of the pit will be opened, and smoke will rise like that of a great furnace from the center of the earth. For Baal of the stars and celestial bodies will release Mot from the underworld.
Oh shit, Mot.
And the next part is Mot.
There you go.
Well, it's still the same.
Man, it kind of sounds like they're talking about Atlantis a little bit, like sunk under the ocean and there's no mountains that will be seen on it. Like, wow, what's under the ocean? Where was this at? Oh my God.
So we have...
And that's what I can't figure out is where this battlefield was. Some people say it was in America, but, you know, America's not underwater. We got mountains. You know, some people say it was here, there, or wherever. But what if it was in New Zealand? That's what I always think is, what if shit was in Australia? We think so small. This land was connected before the fucking flood. You know, as you could just walk there. They were giants, dude. They ripped the tops of mountains off. You don't think they could just walk there real quick? It was nothing for them.
So there's only a couple pages left, and then
Mott
it's
sounds
chapter
like-
3. So it's perfect to finish this off until next week.
Mott sounds like that fucking Baruku, that thing in the Lord of the Rings, the dragon, the fire dragon.
Yeah. Mott. Behold the words of Mott, and behold the locusts that I will bring upon the land of Nimrod. Behold the uncontrollable scorpions that I will release upon the circumcised, the scorpions that damage the remaining grass and trees in Nimrod's land. The scorpions that will destroy all except those who have not carved their members in the rites of circumcision. Those that are circumcised shall be tortured and killed. Their torture will be the stings of scorpions. The circumcised will seek death and not find it until Og delivers it to them.
Huh. Shit. Everyone look down at your penis. You're fucked. You're fucked. You ain't special. You're fucking cursed, baby.
All the women, thank God you don't have one.
I wonder what your curse is. Most. So in some of those tribes, they cut your clit off.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's one of the things. I wonder if because you're human.
I mean, technically, you're
born-
still sheathed as a woman. You can still be kind of, sort of circumcised, I imagine.
So, but I wonder if that's what it is, and I wonder if the Anunnaki women don't have a clit. You know, and that's how they circumcise. It's weird because African tribes do that. They cut the pleasure point off. And that's what you do when you circumcise. You're cutting all the pleasure off. You know what I'm saying?
Damn.
I know. I wonder.
Damn. Okay.
I wonder.
I will make Nimrod's land a dwelling place of demons, a haunt of every foul spirit, a haunt of every foul bird, a haunt of every foul and hateful beast. This is to come along with more. Behold the plagues that I, Mott, will bring upon the circumcised from the underworld. Locusts as large as horses, with Rephaim faces, hair like women's hair and teeth like lions' teeth, with armored scales, wings, and stingers on their tails, for the uncircumcised Rephaim to command. For I, Mott, stand over the bottomless pit of the underworld.
Oh, wow.
I will empower the uncircumcised to kill 1/3 of the circumcised inhabitants of Nimrod's land. I will empower them to kill the circumcised while riding beasts that breathe smoke. Hang on. I will empower them to kill the circumcised while riding beasts that breathe smoke, as the Rephaim warriors wear breastplates the color of fire, sapphire, and sulfur.
Wow.
The rest of the giants of the great land who remain undecided concerning the act of carving their members will face me as I arise from the underworld. I know your works. You are neither circumcised or you are not. You are lukewarm in regards to the governing of your members.
Oh.
I will spit upon you while wrapped in smoke with the dark color of oily water above my head. My face will be as the sun and my legs as pillars of fire. I will raise my right hand to the sky and swear by the underworld that there will be no more delay in the death of the circumcised. The circumcised will say, I am rich, I have prospered, and I need nothing. Yet you fools will not realize that you are circumcised, wretched, pitiable, poor, blind, and naked. Therefore I counsel you that you never cut your foreskin, that you may be rich, and robes of purple clothe you. Behold, my servant Og stands at your uncircumcised door and knocks. If you heed his voice and open the door and remain uncircumcised, the kingdom of the Rephaim will enter into your home and eat with you. Let anyone who has an ear listen to what Mott has to say to the circumcised and the uncircumcised alike. So spoke the prophet Og while chained to the bracelets of the temple of Baal of the earth. All of that is what he spoke
All that is what Samson was talking about as he chained himself to those pillars and all his hair fell out. He lost his power, and then all of a sudden his hair grew back, but he turned gray and he went blind and then talked. It was like Samson did. Samson went fucking blind. His hair grew back because the Spirit of God came back in him. See how they changed the stories? And what Samson do? He ripped that motherfucker down, baby. You know what I'm saying? So we can go back to the story of Samson and find exactly where the fuck they're talking about right there. They hooked up King Og and shit. And then you'll know the story behind Samson, why he terrorized everybody was because they killed the fucking Moonchild, his giant lineage.
So yeah, the prophecy of King Og, that was King Og chained with the Moonchild before the Moonchild passed away. He recited the ball of the earth, the ball of the moon, the ball of the sun, the ball of the stars and celestial bodies and moths. All of that was his prophecy.
Yep.
So spoke the prophet Og while chained to the bracelets of the temple of Baal of the earth. I warn every giant that hears the words of prophecy from King Og. If anyone adds to them, Baal of the earth will add to that giant the plagues described in this prophecy.
And they did.
If anyone takes away from the words that are in King Og's prophecy, Baal of the earth shall take away that giant's share in the whole of the great land that will belong to Og.
And they did, right?
Thus said Anak, keeper of the bodies before Baal.
And they did, right? So in Egypt, they sent the plagues, right? And then what happened to the Jews? All their land was taken. What happened to the black people? All their land was taken, right? All these people are displaced. I mean, this shit is really happened. The people that went against what the whole plan was, those people were doomed. They said it. They said, you're going to get your lands taken. We're going to send plagues to your shit. We're going to fuck you up because you guys are trying to be the cool kids. They were trying to basically disrespect the ones that were born with no penis sheath. They were like, look, we're you. Haha, we're you. We're going to be defiling and shit and be nasty and be all sodomizing people and raping people and shit. You know what I'm saying? But then the other ones were like, we're going to be good, you know, blah, blah, blah. So if you go through history, I believe it's the Jews that do the fucking, don't we get circumcision from Jewish people?
No, they are uncircumcised.
Oh, they're uncircumcised.
They're the ones that do not.
So
they don't touch their shit.
They're of the Ogish. They're of the Ogish. So where's the
like Western religious civilization, essentially.
So it's crazy.
Christianity, Catholicism, I think it's probably, I don't really know about the Eastern religions and what their practices are. I don't know. So I'm not going to speak to that. But in regards to Western culture, I mean, the only ones that don't, I think, are the Jewish. So, yeah.
We're going to have to look into that deeper.
We will.
And see who cuts their penis and who started it.
All right. The last little bit of this chapter and today's sermon, the death of the Moonchild. And it came to pass that on the 7th day, Og spent chained in the temple that the Moonchild died. The servants, sorceresses, and elder Rephaim were afraid to arouse Og from his miserable chains, to tell him that the Moonchild was dead. For they said, indeed, while the Moonchild was still alive, we spoke to him and he would not heed our voice. How can we tell him that the Moonchild is dead? He may do us all some harm. When Og,
Samson.
When Og saw that the servants, sorceresses, and elder Rephaim were whispering, Og perceived that the Moonchild was dead. Therefore, Og said to the gathering crowd from his chains, is the Moonchild dead? And they all said, she is dead. So Og arose and unbuckled from his chains.
So he went in peace.
He washed and he rebraided his hair. anointed his beard, changed his clothes, and went to the temple of Baal of the moon and worshipped. Then he went to his own palace, and when he requested, his smaller self-servants set meat before him, and he ate. Then his smaller self-servants said to him, "What is this that you have done? You have fasted and wept for the moonchild while she was alive, but when the moonchild died, you rose and ate food." So Og said,
Samson said,
"While the moonchild was still alive, I fasted and wept, for I said, who can tell whether Baal of the moon will be gracious to the Rephaim that the moonchild may live? But now that the moonchild is dead, why should I fast? Can I bring her back again? When I die, I shall go to the moonchild, but she will not return to me." It was on this day that Og sent messengers to giants throughout the great land and beyond, to join him in war against Nimrod because of the death of the moonchild and because of their adherence to circumcision, which is disrespectful to the gods. In this way, the 100,000 giant war began.
So check this out. You want us to keep going?
Well, no, we're already in chapter 3, and it's been 2 hours, so we should probably.
No, it's just fascinating, though.
We should probably wait until next week.
Oh, it's fine. How long is the first little part?
It keeps going. It just keeps
it's
going.
It's so fascinating.
I know, honey, but we're going to start doing like a 4-hour live.
It's so good, though. So good. You get into it. So we got people that have circumcised penises, people that don't have circumcised penises. They're pissed. The moonchild is dead. She grew long enough. She grew up long enough that they could put a kid in her. And then she spit that kid out, but that kid didn't live for that very long, I think they said. And it was a male anyway. They were trying to have a girl, and it didn't happen. So here, though, we still have all these giants are still following the gods. So when they say the gods, remember the gods are Enlil, Enki, and Marduk. Those 3 are the main 3 male gods. Like there's others, there's witches of that time. They're Cabal. They're following Inanna and a couple other people like that. You got to remember that things going on at these times. So those are the gods that they're talking about. Enlil and Marduk and Enki, being the ball of the stars and cosmos and ball of the sun, ball of the earth, ball of the underworld, Mot. I bet if you follow Mot back, you'll probably find Ninharzak or one of these people, one of these Nin motherfuckers, one of them supposed fallen angels that they made live in the underworld. Remember, they went to the temple of Baal. In our world today, you can go find the temple of Baal. That was Lord Enki's house, or Lord Enlil's house in the beginning, where the giant cedars are. And then when the fallen angels came down here, Semyaza, Satan, Lucifer, they were like, "Nah, man, you can't be over here. You got to be over there." They were like, "Okay, cool. We'll just go live in your old house." They're like, he's like, "Yeah, you can have that landing pad," and build it up, and it became the temple of Baal, right? So for a while, you got to remember, all these people had different names. Like Satan was Baal of the earth for a while. You know what I'm saying? What you call Lucifer, like Semyaza, he was Baal of the earth for a while. These people were in charge. Like to us, they were in charge for a while. To the Anunnaki, it could have been 2 days. They could have took power for, like we heard about when they took over the spaceship, the landing ports, and the master of the command spot, like the command station. They got the tablets of destiny. Like they only had the power for a small period in the Anunnaki time. But for us, we was literally worshiping these fuckers for hundreds and probably 1,000 years at least. But for them, it could have been a small period of time. And that's what they report it to be. But for us, it's like we're down here worshiping under these things for hundreds of years, like whole generations, whole stories have been written about. These things this guy's 500 years old, and they're talking about the gods and shit, and they're worshiping certain things that when you look back at it, like the Anunnaki talked about these times as going right by, because 1 year for them is 3,600 years for us. That's retarded. Think about 1 year of your life. Now think about just fathom in your head like what an ant colony could do in that 1 year, and that was like what it would be like for us to them. You know, our life is so slow and just normal paced, but things that are tiny are so fast. Like generations go by. Look at flies and mosquitoes and shit. They live for like 24 hours and then die.
Yeah.
You know, so their entire life goes by. So generations of flies are dying, and you're living.
We're
like,
essentially a fly to an Anunnaki.
You're living a week, and generations of flies are going by. Centuries are going by in the fly world.
Just a bunch of bugs and ants.
Yeah. Like, God, imagine what year it would be for a fly. In year 59267, you know,
a lot.
The Messiah was born. He lived for 24 hours and was smashed onto his roots wall.
Oh my God. Like many others before him.
Yeah. That's just how it goes, though. So to hear it from the ground level, from, you know, because the Anunnaki created humans. So when they say our little ourselves, that's what was that Anunnaki creation. Now, when so-called God says, my only begotten son, supposedly that's Jesus. But we all know that Zeus also created Hercules, also supposedly created Achilles. You know, I thought supposedly created Samson too. But looks like Samson's a creation of somebody else, who it says his parents are. So it's like Enlil was probably creating people. Marduk was creating people. These were all demigods. If you consider them to be gods, all of their creation that is created with their actual sperm would be demigods. So when you fast forward thousands of years, here's the people. Here we are, the children of all those things that were left. So we're going to hear coming down the road, though, we're going to get to the 100,000 Giant War.
Actually, we're going to be talking about it next week.
Yeah.
That's chapter 3 is starting to tell us about the war.
Yeah, 100,000 Giant War coming. All people are slaughtered. And then we're going to learn who's left.
See, the very first chapter, I'll only read that, is telling of the 100,000 Giant War as transcribed by both Enoch, the keeper of the bodies before Baal, and Anzal, the slayer, at the smaller selves before Baal of the moon. These are the deeds of the giants who fought with King Og against Nimrod. For our days are past in wrath, and our war is the tale that is told.
Mm-hmm.
Next week.
Yeah. And for this war, all giants of all kingdoms came. This is fucking amazing. There's 100,000 giant war. There's probably a few more, give or take. But, oh my God, can you imagine the fucking roaring thunder and shit? It said that they all brought rocks. The biggest rock that they carried, and that's how they showed how tough they were. I told you, back in the day, that's what they did. They carried big fucking huge stones. If y'all motherfuckers, what up, Looney? What up,
Gromies, homies.
Yeah, Gromies,
cheers,
homies.
Zeb. How you doing, darling?
Zeppelin.
One love. Hello.
You know, you guys live in those nations where the kings that used to live there lifted those big rocks. You need to tell those stories because people don't know that that's how they showed who was badass. So in this war, they brought the biggest rock they could carry to show who the fuck they was. The big ones, they ripped off the top of fucking mountains and brought them to this battle and set them down. So they all piled up all these rocks. Now, what if they didn't pile up the rocks? What if they lined the rocks up in rows like the Karnak stones? I thought about that, though. I was like, what if Karnak is where the battle was and they lined up the stones? Well, and like they all got behind them, like, here's my fucking army.
Right, right. Maybe that was, what if did the stones have to stay there? So like in my thought, it's like you bring a big ass stone, that's like a weapon, like at least a one-time use weapon. So like launch the stone at a head, you know, like why would they all be in a line or in a mountain? I figured they would use them. That's my thought.
No. So the thing was, to come to this war, it was almost like your ticket in.
Oh, really? So it was like, here you go.
Yeah, you'll read about it.
Here you go.
They all brought us the biggest stone they could carry to show how badass they were.
And they didn't use them?
Nope, they put it at the door. Now, during battle, there was all kinds of mountains. They picked up trees and all kinds of shit. Beat the hell out of people.
I just figured those are nice and handy. Why not use them?
But somewhere, they made a giant, it said they all placed the stones in a pile. So I would think a mountain of fucking stones. Now, look, if you
it doesn't have to be a mountain. It could be a foothill now.
It could
but
be.
By now it's probably covered in all kinds of fucking dirt and shit.
But see, if you go to Australia, you see a big ass mountain of stones. Big ass,
like round
big
stones.
ass round, like block stones, like big. Someone put them in a big ass mountain to cover something, and people all go missing there. It's all weird and shit. So, but you know, the flood also comes. So they said there was a huge tidal wave that washed across the earth, and it basically destroyed all of the old world. So,
and that was during the 100,000 Giant War that the flood was happening. So
yeah.
those stones that they just laid in a pile are getting covered
could possibly
during this.
be gone.
Like it's silt. It's all silt, and there's it's way down below something now.
They could possibly be no longer on this planet. I think anything that we see now, and I think that there's a lot of history that could prove this. Anything that we see on the face of our planet now is things that were put after the flood, unless they're on the tippy tops of mountains, because it's written that that's where people went to escape. They went to the very tops of mountains.
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily that it's new in regards to not on this earth before. It's new as in the upheaval of everything. You know, I think there are parts that are new because of everything that hit the earth. Obviously, sediment is here and went everywhere. But I think also things that were deep kind of surfaced and vice versa. Kind of, you know, just
some things surface. Yeah.
You know,
but I mean, like castles and shit like that. The things that are literally built that are on top of our dirt right now, built there, like a castle.
Yeah.
You know,
like,
like Stonehenge. Like those are things after the flood, even though they're knocked down and stuff. Our wars destroyed all these things, like the pyramids we got now. Like those were even reported to be built after the flood. That was the first thing they built, was those two pyramids to fix the power grid. You would call it firmament, whatever you want to call it, your flat earth, round frisbee disc. That was a great one today.
That was a really good one. Join us next week, guys.
And Mott don't play.
When we dig in some more.
Mott don't play, guys. He's about to send forth the Egyptians some shit because they was chopping up their penises and shit. You know?
Woo, I just got the chills.
So you got uncircumcised and circumcised. So just know, whoever you're fighting for, you know, whatever color you may be, whoever you think you are, if you're a circumcised human, they mean to do you in. If you're uncircumcised, you've been lucky, and you won't be called at the end. You know, the calling of the males. That's what it is. It's all the males that have circumcised cocks. Why us though? They're gonna take y'all for slavery in the fucking priesthoods and shit.
I'm gonna be a priestess.
That's why you guys are witches. When they say they took them as in to be priestesses, they taught them how to be witches.
Mm-hmm. We have power, you guys.
They taught the women
how to be
witches.
If you're watching,
they knew the men.
Do not deny your power. They knew it way back then. We need to realize it now.
The women became witches and breeding projects. The men became food slave for work slave, slavery and food. Straight up.
And sacrifice.
See,
it's like there's so many movies, like from way back in the day, that depict sacrifice, but they depict a woman being sacrificed. The virgin sacrificed the virgin, but really,
that's a different thing.
Well, maybe
so. Look at apocalyptico or whatever. It's all males.
It is exactly. I was just going to say, like, you know, there's
males and babies.
But yeah,
It's Hollywood. I think that shows the virgin.
I think it shows the power that they're willing to sacrifice for what they want.
You know what I think it is, though? Okay, so a lot of people say this. They go, this is the whitewashing in Hollywood. They always show like white people as Indians and white people as Egyptians. And well, here's the thing, guys. You guys are fucking so smart. Listen, back in the day, how many black actors were there? There's only white people acting. There was a suppression era going on. You know, I don't deny that. But there was not enough black actors to fill all those roles. So that's why they had to put white people as their character. It was common fucking sense. Nowadays, they put the black people where the black people belong, like the darker skinned people. If it's a Chinese movie, they grab a whole bunch of Chinese motherfuckers, don't they? So that's the thing you got to remember. What were you just saying? Because I was going to go on with that. That's one thing I don't understand. What people don't get though. But there was one other thing here. Shit.
I was talking about sacrifices.
Oh. Same thing. Okay. So our times now, we're just learning about all these babies in McDonald's and shit, you know, baby food in McDonald's, and there's chopped up babies and all kinds of medicine, all kinds of drinks. They drink baby blood. They eat their adrenal gland. They like to eat babies. We're just hearing about this now. This is becoming a normal fucking thing for us for some reason, right? To where they can actually show babies being eaten and killed on the media today. And it's not that big of a deal. Back then, they couldn't show a virgin baby being sacrificed, so they used a virgin female. Think about it. Think about it. So they can only put white people as actors in these roles where brown people belong because there was only white actors. You can't show them killing a fucking baby. So you got a baby's a virgin. The baby is okay. So a preteen girl that before sex is not innocent. That does not define innocence in any kind of way. A baby before taught anything defines the purest of the soul. And that's what they knew. But they couldn't depict that. So they put a blonde virgin in fucking white robes and shit, saying she was clean and pure of soul, which ain't ever true, because you know them girls are fucking, they get all horny before they fuck. You know how it is. This is true. We're humans. So what's interesting though is to learn that we come from that. We come from the fucking horror story is what we come from. We are children of that.
And just like we read in the other book of Lord Enki, that we will repeat history. We will repeat the doings of our ancestors, and make no mistake, our ancestors are the Anunnaki.
Till the stars are no longer in the sky, we are going to repeat these, what they call them. It's curse. It's a curse put on us. It'll always happen because you know why?
It's human nature.
Because there's circumcised and uncircumcised people.
It's like
there's a curse.
We can't get out of this fucking. It's just the way we are. We don't know how to not be this way.
Yeah, because no one can ever come together. Even if we come together, a whole bunch of circumcised and uncircumcised people, in the end, they're gonna kill half of us. At least a third of us are going down. You heard it. So when they talk about they scorched a third of the planet, that's all straight across the top of Africa. That's Iran. That's fucking the whole Middle East.
And where's their scorched earth that's desert-like and not much growing?
Now, what's kind of strange about it is they talk about how they were going to end up, lightning and thunder and all this shit and throw this fireball down. Here's my idea. So there's a fireball. Our earth is spinning, right? Things kind of move kind of slow in what we appear to look at them. So what if this thing went around our fucking planet, and that's how the scorch got there?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What if this fireball came super, super close to us and scorched that fucking earth?
Like it just kind of
like
skimmed
it. Charred it.
Yeah, skimmed it.
Like how we saw
like in the moonfall. Yep.
And it just scorched that fucking part of our earth, dude. What if it was our fucking moon? What if our moon came down too close at one point? and scorched that fucking shit.
I mean,
What
if that was scientifically correct, that movie, then damn, that'll scorch some shit.
What if it was just straight up Nibiru who came that close to where it literally just fried all that area? I was under kind of assumption that, like, giants, I would think that a giant would use a lot of wood. As insected people that we are, we use a lot of wood. We deforest the whole goddamn forest. We let it regrow. A giant wouldn't have that luxury. A giant would clear a forest and walk all over all those little saplings. They'd never regrow again. He'd just use that spot, and keep deforesting. That's what I always thought. Imagine how much wood Noah would need.
Yeah, things were so much bigger, and they needed so much more of things then than we do now on such a larger / smaller scale. It's like the scale is completely changed. So if you think about our did I say that right? Deforestation, that, and what we've done as the size of human beings we are and what our needs are, imagine what they needed. Imagine the size that they needed, all the trees that they needed to cut down. Now wonder why there are massive ass trees that we think are mountains and what's the word I'm thinking? Mountain tops.
Stubs, yeah.
They're called a specific thing, but
afternoon drum beats.
We think that they're mountains. They're trees. They needed the trees that big to fucking sustain themselves, to build them houses. Like it's insane. It's insane when you picture this world in a completely different perspective of giants. Like, Jesus fuck.
Giants. We were the smaller selves. That's because we look exactly the same, but we were puny to them. We were my size. I was probably either average size or probably small, because I'm thinking when they say our smaller selves, they are probably talking about 8 to 9 foot people.
That's what I think too. I think we are
7,
smaller
8, 9 foot
than what their smaller selves were at that time. Because if you think about it, even like way back then, things were so much bigger. Even
before the flood.
Even us.
Before the flood, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So you got to track Adam and Eve, blah, 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 blah. And I think all these people were the smaller selves.
Like
Adam
10, 8, 9, 10 feet. Those were smaller selves comparatively.
Yep. Smaller selves.
Like,
we were just smaller.
Just smaller, just not to their height.
After the flood, people got fixed. But that's why there's still giants were around, because supposedly Lord Enlil only fucked with Noah's DNA. They said they would fix Noah. Maybe they fixed his sons too. But around the planet, there was other people that lived, that survived the flood some fucking way. They survived it. Not connected to anything biblical. These people survived. They got a survival flood story. In these lands, you'll find giants. You'll find giants in their history. It's wild, dude. And it's all what they're talking about here, Imagine getting swept away in a flood. You're alive. You escaped this battle. They didn't all get killed. The battle never ended, right? You're going to hear about it. The battle never ended. That means motherfuckers fled. Some people just straight ran away. You're going to hear, I would run the fuck away too. There's no way I would ever fight this battle. Never. It would be the coolest video game battle. I'm telling you, this would be the funnest movie. I got a cartoonist. I don't think I could get him to do it for free, because, it would be the biggest, coolest project, though, anyone would undertake if he would accept doing it and just take the credit for it and put it out there. But I would want to keep it, you know what I mean? I'd want to have it and put it out there. But, dude, it would be the coolest. It's a cockfight, straight up. Right, baby?
Yeah.
It's a cockfight. You don't know yet. It's a cockfight.
I've been told.
It's straight up a cockfight. They were cutting everyone's cocks off, man. You heard about it. The first time they really, really fought on this planet, the dude bit the other guy's dick off. He bit his dick off, dude. Dick and probably his balls, too. I mean, he opened wide and took it right down his shaft. It's crazy, man. Imagine a black dude trying to cover his humongous cock with small animal furs. I don't think that would be possible. Like, so the curse of Ham was that they would have extra long cocks. So they're walking around with fucking almost a kickstand, 18-inch cocks. There's a tribe in Africa. Their cocks average 19 inches. I think the longest one was 22 inches. These guys in Africa. That's their whole tribe. That's the curse of the Ham. They were cursed with bigger lips and wiry hair and big old cocks. Huge cocks. Fucking lucky motherfuckers.
No, I wouldn't say so.
Well, no, you just get to take pictures with it and stuff and swing it around and like it's in your pants and everyone gets to look at it.
I was say that's all they get to do with it. That's all they get to do with it because there ain't no dick like that size going in any vagina I know of.
Not that you know of, but just like
maybe they're made differently.
Just like there was males with the curse of Ham, right? The females were also born with the curse of the Ham. So they were born with giant vaginas. So they can fit these giant penises. It's just a thing. Mm-hmm. It is. You're going to read about this shit. Wait till we get to Cotton. Wait till we get to Cain. The curse of Cain. What's the curse of Cain? No beard. No beard. God, we'll go to all these little tribes, these little Asian tribes, these South American tribes, and their people are like hairless. You go to Philippines, the people are hairless. They don't ever have shape. Even the women. They like grow what you would consider like when you were like maybe 10 or 11, like had that kind of hair on your body. That's what Filipino people grow. Mm. It's so weird, but it's not weird if you understand what kind of magic Adam had. And he could do hocus pocus on your ass and you would lose your beard and wouldn't be able to grow it. And then none of your people would either. Nobody that came from your sperm. When they say your seed, or your line, that means like, one guy banged a female or something and started creating people. And then from that DNA imprint right there, that's all you needed because he was so pure. It's all you needed. It's like, you ever have like a whole tub of something and from that tub, you can make all these different things and stuff, but they're all different. They don't look like the original thing, but they all have the original thing in them. And that's how it was. So all of them didn't have beards, but as they went down the line, some of them will get a little strand here or there, like in China over the thousands of years, they were able to grow that cool long beard, big long eyebrows and shit. Things like that. But the mark still remains. The mark still remains, man. All right, everybody. I think Amber is looking like she wants to go and eat some food. And she wants to watch some cool stuff. And you guys have an awesome Sunday. And make sure that you guys worship yourselves and your body and your frequency. And always raise your frequency every day. Raise the positive vibes and erase one of those negative things that were holding you back out of your life. Just realize in the end, that doesn't matter, right? The only thing that matters is if you accomplished your damn mission. If you didn't accomplish your mission, you're going to go to the light and you're going to be back right here. So fuck it. So just keep good heart, a good soul, and eat good food. Like we don't. If you don't eat good food, you're going to feel like shit. You can't raise your God consciousness through mushrooms. And mushrooms eat dead people, and dead people eat mushrooms or some shit like that. So peace out, everybody.
Have a wonderful Sunday. And we'll see you next week.
Live long and prosper. May the force be with you always, as it is with me.
Indeed.